Well, hey everyone, this is Jonathan, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. This is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. I'm an elementary school teacher who loves to read middle grade books so that I have good recommendations to give to my students. And today we're going to do something a little bit fun. We're going to do the childhood book tag. As I was going through YouTube videos and different things like that, I came across this tag and thought it might be fun to answer some of these questions so that you can get to know me a little bit better and what books help shape who I am. So we have 10 questions here that we're going to go through, and I'll try to keep the answers fairly succinct if possible. Question number one: were you a big reader as a child? And the answer to that is yes. I've always been a big reader. There have been a few times where I didn't read nearly as much as I do now or I did as a child, but I still remember the very first sentence I learned to read in kindergarten. The first sentence was, "The pig sat in the mud." So I have always been a big reader. Going to the library has been a big joy in my life. My parents always made sure I had lots of books. Question two: did your parents read to you? And if so, what? Well, as I was thinking on this, I don't really remember all of the books that my parents read to me. My dad read to me primarily, but one of the books that he did read, I happened to come across at a used bookstore not too long ago. And so I picked it up just because I wanted to have it to read to my children. And that book is this book right here. This is a Sesame Street Book Club book. I have no idea how we got a copy of it, but it was called When I'm as Big as Freddy. And the thing I remember about my dad reading this to me is every time he would say the word Freddy, he always called him Freddy DD. Cracked me up. Don't know why it made me laugh so much, but that book is very nostalgic for me. So, did they read to us? Yes, they did. Number three, first bookish memories. Um, Honestly, I can't remember my very first one. Like I shared at the beginning, the first sentence I ever read was "The pig sat in the mud" way back in kindergarten. But I definitely remember reading books all summer long. I remember in second grade getting the Scholastic Book Club flyers to bring home and getting a Karate Kid novelization. That was really exciting for me. I remember Amelia Bedelia, and there was one part where it was like the door was ajar, and or leave the door ajar. So she took the door off and she put a big jar there instead. So those are things that I remember about that. Number four, be honest. Did you read books assigned to you in school? And the answer is yes, I did read those books. When I moved from private school, we went to private school in kindergarten through third grade. But when I moved to fourth grade, I was a part of a program called Futura. Some of you may know it as the Gifted and Talented. And at that time, a lot of the program was based around different books and projects that we would do with those books. So I remember Tales from Shakespeare by Mary Lamb. I remember reading The Little Prince. If you've ever read that book, it's really sad, but I really enjoyed it. We read parts of Swiss Family Robinson. There were all kinds of books that we read. So I did read those books as well. And then in high school, obviously, I read all of the books there: Death of a Salesman, The Scarlet Letter, The Great Gatsby, um, parts of Canterbury Tales. Was not a fan of that book at all. Number five, where did you get your books as a child? Well, I already mentioned Scholastic Book Clubs. I'm a huge proponent of Scholastic Book Clubs. Even now, as a teacher, we look forward to the Scholastic Book Fair. Our school does it twice a year. My wife's school does it twice a year. I also send home the flyers every once in a while. So we would get them from Scholastic, but I also remember my dad taking us to the library quite often. He would go and he would read the newspaper, read a magazine, and I would walk around the Sterling Library. That's the library we went to, looking for mysteries and Hardy Boys. There was the McGurk mysteries. Love those books. Um, so I remember going to the library, and then probably about fourth or fifth grade, the bookmobile would come to our neighborhood every 2 weeks. It was on a Thursday afternoon, and I would race home from school, and I would try to beat my neighbor, who also was a big reader. We try to beat the other one to the bookmobile because if I got there first, then I got all the good books, and if he got there first, then he would take the good books from me. So, um, number 7, did you watch any television meant to inspire reading? I am of the age where Reading Rainbow was a huge hit. So I remember watching those. I even still show Reading Rainbow to my students to encourage them to read. I remember watching some Wishbone episodes. I was probably a little old for Wishbone, but I do remember watching some of those. So, yes, I did watch the TV designed to inspire reading. Number 7, what sort of genres or storylines did you like? At that time, when I was a child, I read pretty much anything. Even though I was not the target audience, I was a big fan of the Babysitter's Club books by Anne M. Martin. Read all of those. Took a little bit of flack from kids on the school bus for reading those, but I did read them. That's where I came across a book called Chicken Trek by Stephen Maines. Absolutely love that book. I read that to my students every year. So I read pretty much anything and everything. I guess at that time, realistic fiction wasn't quite as issue driven as it seems to be today. It was more just humorous, fun stuff, and so I read quite a few of those. Favorite children's or picture book? Let me think on that. Well, obviously, as I showed you this is a favorite of mine. When I'm as big as Freddy. There was also another one starring Grover. Some of you may remember it, called The Monster at the End of the Book. I loved that book. We had a great time reading that. Where the Wild Things Are was a fun one that I enjoyed. Um, so yeah, those are some of my favorite picture books. Favorite chapter or big kids books. So at that time, I absolutely loved the Ramona books by Beverly Cleary. I read all of those. I read all of the Henry Huggins books, also by Beverly Cleary. I already mentioned the Babysitters Club. Was a big fan of those, even though I wasn't the target audience. I just liked the writing and the story. Um, Chronicles of Narnia, so obviously, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I remember sitting under my window next to the heating vent, reading those in the winter time when I wasn't playing Monopoly with my brother. So those are some of my favorites. But I think my all-time favorite big kids book, chapter book, was a book called Little Pilgrim's Progress. I am a huge proponent of The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. It's one of the greatest books ever written. And this was a book that was reimagined using the same storyline, the same characters, but everyone is a child, with the exception, I think, maybe Evangelist. He may have been an adult, but for the most part, all of the characters in here are children. And I have read that book so many different times. And I even found a copy of it on Amazon. And now my daughter, has read it several times as well. We read it together as a family, and she took it from me, and it's hidden in her room somewhere. So that would be my favorite big kids book. Number 10, last question. Favorite children's series? I've mentioned quite a few of them. I mentioned the Babysitter's Club. I won't say that one was my favorite, but I did enjoy that. I think the Hardy Boys mysteries, going back all the way to The House on the Cliff and The Missing Chums, and several of those. I read as many of those as I could get my hands on. There was another one, they're a little harder to find now, called the Bobbsey Twins, about two sets of twins who got into all kinds of mysteries. I don't know where their parents were during all of this, but that was another series that I really liked. And I really enjoyed, as I mentioned, the Ramona books. Ramona the Pest when she was in kindergarten, Ramona the Brave, Ramona Quimby, age 8, Ramona and her mother, Ramona and her father. All of those were ones that I just read over and over again. And then there was another one. This is by Gordon Corman, and it is the Bruno and Boots stories. It's about two boys named Bruno and Boots, and they go to a boarding school in Canada. And the great thing about that is that was one of Gordon Corman's first books, and he is still writing books today that I enjoy and I get to share with my students. So I'm very excited about that as well. I think that tells you a little bit about me as a childhood reader. I'm certain there are other things that I could share with you. Uh, but let me ask you this: what are some of your favorite books from when you were a child? What were some of the books that you read? But I would love to hear that. If you want to leave those in the comments down below, that would be great. And please share this video. It helps to get more videos out to other people. And if you have not already done so, please think about subscribing so that you can know when I put out new videos. This has been the Childhood Books Tag. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.